Hello and welcome to a Thursday night, week 6 showdown edition. My name is Adam Levitan, joined by Cody Main. You may be expecting Drew Dinkmeyer. You do not have him because he is neck deep in the NBA Virgin streets. I don't know what those guys are doing over there in the NBA streets, but they're working around the clock to get ready for Tuesday's opener in the NBA. But we have football to talk about. Of course, Cody, how's it going today?
I'm doing good. I'm already seeing OJ Howard flag plants in the chat in honor of Dink. So good start to the show. I'm ready to dive into this thing.
If Dink was here, he would flag plant OJ Howard and OJ Howard wouldn't score. But since Dink isn't here, I actually think OJ Howard has a chance for a good game. It's just whatever the opposite of Dink was going to do. By the way, I mentioned NBA. If you guys have not checked it out yet, we have DFS and props as separate products this year. Check it out up here on the subscribe NBA products page. You can also check out our team NBA content schedule here and the props plan here if you are interested in that. This game is an interesting one, man. Like if this was a main slate game, I mean, people would be falling all over themselves to play this game because the way Tampa plays, highest pass rate over expectation in the entire NFL. And on the opposite side, teams are throwing at a 70+% rate against them. It just sets up so perfectly for DFS. So like the chalk in this game, in this spot, even if it was a main slate, would be play both sides of the past games in this spot. I mean, it's really unique the way both these teams are playing, especially Tampa. What do you think about this game from macro level, Cody?
Yeah, I think like you said, we're going to see so many fantasy points scored tonight if the game plays out as projected. The Bucs are obviously going to throw first in Leone's pass rate over expectation, throwing at like a 68% clip. They don't slow down when they get a lead. Even a 6.5 point favorites tonight, I would imagine that they keep their foot on the gas. And then on the other side, the Eagles have been a little bit more game script sensitive this year under Nick Sirianni. So we're seeing them throw at about a 70% rate when trailing, and they're third in pass rate over expectation. So I'm expecting a lot of pass volume, a lot of plays in this game. And for that reason, I think we've got a lot of interesting captain options.
Paul says that he's not playing tonight, but the thumbnail drew him in. And Greg says he's going to like this video just because of the thumbnail. Cody, under threat of getting fired, finally got in his YouTube idiotic face thing. How did the photo shoot go today?
I mean, just so demoralizing. The best place in my house to do this was literally in my 3-year-old son's bedroom. And so I had to kick him out for nap time. And he literally stumbled in and was like, "Dad, why are you making those faces as I'm trying to take these selfies?" So I'm obviously the worst as is, but seeing my kid look at me the way that he looked at me today was demoralizing. So shout out to corporate for getting the thumbnails done.
Austin says it's the King GPP bro himself. Yes, thank you for addressing me by my proper name. Okay, let's get into it here with the quarterbacks. And so kind of the way that Tom Brady plays quarterback, it's not always concentrated, right? So like obviously Tom Brady is going to be massively owned. Obviously Jalen Hurts is going to be massively owned. We have them 79.5, 74.8%. You can get away sometimes with non-Brady captain lineups, or Brady captain lineups, I should say. You can get away with Brady captain lineups because he can throw 4 touchdowns to 4 different guys. Whereas in more concentrated offense, you know where it's going, or in the case of Hurts, or in the case of Lamar, he could run for them too. So I think Brady is in a discussion on his own, whether to captain or to leave in flex. Or do you think there's any complete fades available on Brady here? What do you think about all that?
Yeah, so we saw the complete Brady fade work to perfection in week 1 with 3 of his pass catchers in the lineup, with 1 of them at captain. So I don't think it's out of question for, even if you want to roster multiple Bucs pass catchers, for you to get away with that and fade Brady at the expensive price tag. Obviously, if you're doing something like that, I wouldn't be leaving a whole lot of salary on the table, because I think your bet is that, everything works out, the Bucs play to perfection, and the only reason that Brady doesn't make a lineup is because his salary was too much and his receivers produce well enough. But as you mentioned, I mean, he makes a perfectly viable captain option. I will say that with Gronk out, and we'll get to the receivers in a second here, but with Gronk out there, the targets have been more concentrated to the big 3. And so even if you get a big game out of Brady where he spreads it around to those guys, maybe hits OJ Howard or Cameron Brate for one, that 12-4 price tag is pretty expensive when you get a little bit of a discount on his pass catchers. And PPR-friendly DraftKings, we know we like to roster the wide receivers at captain. So if I'm building one lineup, it won't be Brady at captain, and throughout a portfolio of lineups in GPP, MME, I don't think I'll be over the field on him either.
On the other side, Jalen Hurts, I mean, you see what quarterbacks do to the Bucks because my God, I mean, teams aren't even trying to run on the Bucks, and like they've kind of screwed themselves with the way they're playing defense because they're forcing everyone to go to the air, which is more optimal and more efficient, anyways. And now they have all these injuries in the back end of their secondary due the Bucks, so they're getting kind of lit up a bit through the air. I mean, not even that bad through efficiency, but just on raw volume. And so you get this spot for Jalen Hurts, who has been so good. Jalen Hurts' props were out of control. Like I had to take some unders on Jalen Hurts props because he has like Dan Marino level props, and like I don't think that that's necessarily Jalen Hurts' game. I have under 26.5 pass completions for Jalen Hurts. I also think there's just some ways that it goes bad for Hurts tonight anyways, but I can see in fantasy him being just an absolutely spectacular play in this spot. And unlike Brady, he can run for 40, 50 yards at like a median level. He can run for touchdowns. And so I think Hurts is a more viable captain to me than maybe even Brady, and a more viable flex play to me than Brady, although I like playing both, as I'm sure most of the field will. What do you think about Hurts?
Yeah, if you're forced to choose one, for me, it's Hurts tonight. I think you just have so many more outs, with him getting there, whether it be racking up points in garbage time or with his legs. He just has such a massive share of this team's rushing attempts and is so involved in the red zone as well. But I think at captain, and you don't need me to tell you to play Hurts at captain, he's got one of the highest ceilings on the slate, if not the highest raw ceiling on the slate with the rushing ability. But I think what people will do if they play Hurts at captain is just pair him with one pass catcher. And I think there's a little bit of leverage just in macro roster construction if you're willing to extend a little bit and play him with two. And I think there's a few guys, as we'll talk about, in wide receivers and tight ends that make sense from both a value perspective, high upside guys like Devonta Smith, and then a couple of cheap value options. So I think most likely the field will pair Hurts with one Eagles pass catcher if they do roster him a captain. And I think we can get away with extending that out to two, and there's some leverage there.
This is a good comment from Chris. He says, I don't care if I make money playing Miles Sanders as captain or not. It's all about me and the 3% of others coming together as a community. Everybody is making fun of my community rant. I mean, let's be honest. I would kill Cody to make $1. This is not about the community. I would kill everyone in the chat to make money. This is not about the community. We're out here to make money, guys. This is not the community. Come on. Let's be honest. All right. Running backs. So everybody wants to talk about this Miles Sanders versus Kenny Gainwell thing. The most likely game script favors Kenny Gainwell. We have seen him play on pass downs. We've seen everybody try to throw against the Bucks. We just saw Myles Gaskin catch 10 passes and score 2 touchdowns against the Bucks. I mean, this lines up so perfectly for getting Kenny Gainwell. I think the field's going to be on it. Like, I actually think that we have 24% on Kenny Gainwell. I could see him getting higher than that. Just the narrative is out there that Gainwell is going to outperform Sanders in this spot. I think they start in base with Miles Sanders, but once they become ineffective, they're like, screw it. Let's just go to the Gainwell 2-minute offense. Let's just go to the Gainwell pass down offense and try to do it. I think that's the most likely scenario. What do you think about this whole Miles Sanders versus Gainwell discussion? And I didn't even mention salary. I mean, my God, almost $4,000 more to get to Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. I think you'd find sickos out there that would take Kenneth Gainwell straight up over Sanders in this spot. So I think you're right that we're probably a little light on ownership, and that'll be something we need to adjust. Just looking at the slate from a macros perspective, you're kind of going to see this barbell approach where it's kind of stars and scrubs. People will roster these 2 and 3K guys in order to get up to the quarterbacks and the high end pass catchers. But I kind of like Miles Sanders as a leverage guy. I know that Kenneth Gainwell thing's set up well for him, but if they can keep this thing close, I know he probably won't be efficient as a rusher. He's got to contend with Jalen Hurts in the red zone for high value rushing attempts. But I think the captain ownership is going to be pretty low for a guy that's handling 65, 70% of the running back carries and is still involved as a pass catcher. Maybe not to the degree that Kenneth Gainwell is. And then you throw in the salary that you definitely like Kenny Gainwell more from a value perspective, cash game perspective. But I think there is a little bit of leverage there, especially once we adjust ownership.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to stomach Miles Sanders when you're trying to pay up for those other guys at 6,600 for sure. I don't think he's going to be that owned. I do think more people will play Gainwell. For what it's worth, I do have a bet on Miles Sanders under 3.5 catches. So it's just hard for me to see all these Eagles, different guys getting there. We'll get to Zach Ertz in a second here. I can't believe people are so excited to play Zach Ertz. I mean, it's sickening. On the other side, I was a little surprised that Gio Bernard played so little in his first game back. He did come in and catch a red zone touchdown, but Lenny Fournette ran 27 routes, I believe, and Gio ran like 8. And that's a wider gap than I thought. I mean, I thought Gio would come back in and play a majority of third down. I don't think he was being eased in, but maybe. And so it's interesting, Gio is expensive here. Lenny is not that expensive relative to his role. Lenny was like the cash play in main slate last week and performed well. I expect him to be very popular. What do you think about the Bucks running backs? And is there anything left in Ronald Jones, or is he just total dust?
I thought there might have been a little bit of leverage with Lenny Fournette at the top in the captain, but I think he's gonna. So much narrative around him, and as a 7-point favorite, despite being on the road and everyone loving this Bucks pass game, I've heard so much chatter around Leonard Fournette today that I don't think he's going to end up being any sort of leverage off of the other skill position players, and he's cheaper, so I think he just kind of starts to fit builds. But yeah, you mentioned Gio Bernard. The fact that he scored that touchdown probably kept his price up for whatever reason that is, but he's going to be just completely unknown. His median projection is terrible. I don't think people are going to be projecting a lot of pass routes for him today. So these are the type of plays in Showdown that you would never even consider on a main slate where he's way too expensive, doesn't have a good median projection, is dealing with, two other guys in the same backfield for touches. But this is the type of play that you get at 5 or 6%. And, if he runs into the right game script, or they just have a really efficient 2-minute drive at the end of the first half, something of that nature, he could certainly sneak his way into an optimal lineup. So that's a guy at 5 or 6% ownership. Maybe it gets a little bit steamed that I would definitely like to be overweight on in the field.
Oh, I don't think it's going to get steamed. No, I think we have it. I think we have it about right here. 6% overall and 1% captain on Gio. I mean, I can't stomach playing Gio, but then again, I can barely stomach playing Showdown because, as Cody said, like the more expensive, the worse of a in a vacuum value play a guy is, often the better play he is on Showdown. It's a whole different game we're playing here. Is Ronald Jones dead? I mean, like Ronald Jones, he can be the best between the tackles runner for the Bucks. I just don't think they're want to give him a chance to do it right now. Lenny is playing so well, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at 1,800 that Ronald Jones way outscores Gio and maybe can break a 20-yard touchdown run or something. But it's really tough at a base projection level. We're only projecting him for 4.4 points. What do you think about playing Rojo?
Yeah, it gets tricky with these guys like Rojo and on the last slate where we saw Marlon Mack sneak his way into optimal lineups. They do need a big break a big play if they're not involved as a pass catcher, or obviously fall into the end zone. But with so many points projected in this game, if the game plays out like we expect it to, even if Rojo sneaks in for 30 to 35% of the running back attempts and falls forward for 5 yards of play, he's going to have to bust one, or he's going to have to land in the end zone to crack an optimal lineup. But with that said, if you're projecting out these game scripts where you think the Bucks dominate, I don't think many people are going to pair Ronald Jones with Leonard Fournette. Whether one of them you have Fournette as a captain play and Rojo as a flex, or both in the flex, I think that's one of those viable strategies if you are projecting the Bucks just to go out and dominate.
Yeah, we were talking before the show. Somebody ripped off $1 million on Monday night with both Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack in the same lineup. I think those double running back lineups in Showdown are certainly unique. I mean, he had a solo win. I don't know how often are solo wins on Showdown, Cody. It can't be that often. He had a solo win with Mack and Taylor.
No, they're super rare. I think that was the first big DraftKings main flagship GPP solo of the year. Most of these, it's been better. I think more people are focused on being unique and playing the game, quote unquote, the right way. But usually you're looking at, anywhere between 7 and 15 for a good range. And some of these slates even get, higher than that, 30, 40, chopping it up for first.
Joe asked, do we see Bruce Arians giving Fournette some veteran rest on a short week and letting Rojo play more? That is one thing on these Thursday games. I don't feel as stable with our projections on Thursday as I would on a Sunday. And so, yeah, I would bake that in for sure. All right. Wide receiver is where it's at, man. I mean, from a base projection standpoint, we have Chris Godwin with the best. I don't think it would surprise anyone at all if any of the $3. I mean, Antonio Brown is playing so well. Godwin popped up. I actually felt pretty good about Godwin fade last week, and I think got pretty lucky with it because he ended up with 11 targets. Mike Evans and Antonio Brown ended up going off. Would not surprise me if any of those 3 guys went off. And then we also have Tyler Johnson here, who ran a bunch of routes last week down at 1K. We have him for 4.7 in base, at least in play, to save salary there. How are you thinking about the Bucks wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean, the Bucks wide receivers, any one of them could go off. All three of them could go off. It's just one of those situations where all three of them project pretty well. They're close enough in price that there's not going to be massive leverage on which one you go with, whether it's single entry or three max, which guy you go with as flex or as captain. But with that said, I think Godwin and Antonio Brown stand just a shade above Mike Evans, given the price savings that we get. It's 2,000 from AB up to Evans and 800 from Godwin up to Evans. I think Evans will come in even a little bit lower owned than his projection, and a little bit of that will go towards Godwin and Antonio. But, as you mentioned, Godwin's probably due for a little bit of touchdown regression. He's been a little bit unlucky in that category. So he's probably my favorite of the three. And it seems like this is the place to attack this Bucs secondaries with these slot guys. So definitely, if forced to choose one of the three, it's Godwin for me tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Mike Evans is like another pay up to be contrarian type thing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's 2K more than Antonio Brown. And again, some of these showdown slates, like salary doesn't matter that much. On this one, though, obviously, it does matter because all these guys are so expensive. All right. If we think that the Eagles are going to take this extremely pass heavy approach, I think that's the way the field's going to play. And I want to make a note here that Quez Watkins has really started to outplay Jalen Reagor. Like, Jalen Reagor looks awful out there, man. And like Eagles coaches are watching the tape, I'm sure, and Quez Watkins looks better. I actually think that the playing time, the routes run between Watkins and Reagor could be relatively even tonight. And so that's an interesting spot for me, at least, although their ownership, I think, is in pretty much the same spot, which makes sense. And then, of course, everybody's excited about Devonta Smith, as they should be. Devonta Smith looks like a certified baller. What about Eagles wide receivers tonight? It would be hard for me to stomach playing any outside of these three: Smith, Reagor, Watkins. But I'm sure someone will shove Greg Ward in there.
Yeah, I'm very excited about Devonta Smith. I flag planted him in week 3 on Monday night, and he kind of airballed a little bit. But I don't think the ownership's going to get too steamed on him, priced in between those Bucks guys. So I think that he could come in a little bit low under owned. I think that you'll see the field really gravitate towards those expensive Bucks guys and try to force in some of the cheaper Eagles guys that we've mentioned. So I think he kind of get caught in no man's land a little bit. This Bucks secondary, as we know, is getting passed on a ton. They're also giving up big plays, lead the league in 20+ yard completions allowed. So very excited for Devonta Smith. I will definitely be overweight Devonta Smith in as far as captain exposure in GPPs.
Yeah, I guess my take is that, like, if people are going to be playing Hurts, which we know they're playing Hurts at a massive level, then and all their singles are going to be Devonta Smith, right? Yeah. I mean, is that a bad take?
No, I think you're right. I think that's going to be pretty common. He's pretty affordable at 8,800. And your point on Quez Watkins, he doesn't have a good median projection, but it's hard to bake, what you mentioned into median projections if he's just playing better than Jalen Reagor and is going to get more snaps tonight. That's certainly interesting. I think he's going to be less owned than Reagor, but like you said, it's probably about right in terms of where their projections are at.
Yeah. Interesting situation. All right. Speaking of interesting situation, I mean, I have never seen a dusted, old, slow, can't do anything after the catch. I've never seen so many people, everybody, Twitter, Discord. I mean, everybody's excited about Zach Ertz. And I obviously I know Dallas Goedert's out. And I think Zach Ertz going to play a ton. I mean, the dude catches and falls every time. And so, like, for him to have a big game, it's going to take like 10, 11, 12 targets. And that would surprise me, honestly. And maybe that's a bad take. I don't know. I like a fade on Zach Ertz if we think, I mean, everybody's talking about him. We could even be low on his ownership here at 25.9%. People are talking about captaining Zach Ertz. Am I crazy here, Cody, for going for a full Zach Ertz fade tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize how absurd the Zach Ertz hype train had gotten until I saw a friend of the show, Davis Maddock, tweet out that Captain Ertz is going to win somebody $1 million tonight. And I about lost my damn mind. No, I'm with you. And it kind of sets up the whole macro point of the slate is that people are going to jam in Kenny Gainwell at 2,400. People are going to jam in Zach Ertz at 3,200 and then play whichever Bucks they can play. I think that's the consensus roster construction. And from, value perspective, that's probably right. But it's so hard for Ertz to realize a ceiling on a slate like this. I mean, like you said, he's going to have to be targeted 10, 11, 12 times, and he's actually going to have to do something with that. But you're going to see we are probably light on his ownership, both total and captain, because people will throw him in the captain and then play all the expensive guys around him. So I would like to come in underweight that. We'll see where it actually comes out. but it's a scary proposition as popular as he's going to be tonight.
Yeah. I mean, like I could see Ertz going like 7 catches for like 48 yards. Do you think that ends up in the optimal?
Man, 3,200. Whew. I don't, if the game plays out like we expect it to with the pass volume that we're expecting, probably not. But man, if for any reason this thing is a little bit slower or comes in under the total, that might be enough. 11.8 DraftKings points at 3,200. If we don't see a ton of fantasy points produced elsewhere, that might be enough.
If Dink was here, he would be talking about Jack Stoll, who I believe we played in preseason one time. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, shout out Nebraska. Yeah, Jack Stoll. We were playing him when they were down to nobody in the preseason, and is in play again here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he's actually in play here tonight? Because I don't think that, like, I think they're going to want to play some 2 tight end, and I don't think Ertz can really handle playing every single snap. I mean, what do you think about Stoles?
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but on these games with so much play volume and so much fantasy points we expect to be produced, even if he scores one for one catch, 5 yards and a touchdown, that might not be enough raw points to crack an optimal lineup. But if they're not going to play a bunch of 2 tight ends, then they're going to have to play more wide receivers, which probably brings your $1,000 Greg Ward into play. So these are certainly guys that it's a showdown slate. You're going to have to mix them into lineups, and I think he's actually going to catch a little bit of ownership too.
All right. On the other side, we know Rob Gronkowski is out. We saw OJ Howard's role get expanded a bit last week against the Dolphins. Do you have a feel for what's going on between Brate and OJ Howard right now? Obviously, OJ just crushes Brate in the PSM. There's no doubt about that. OJ Howard, one of really good athlete, but man, Bruce Arians has not liked him for a while now. And we were showing a bet on OJ Howard's over in his yards, and I just couldn't take it because, like, I feel like at any time they could rug OJ Howard in terms of his playing time. What do you think about the Bucs tight ends?
Well, you're batting 1,000 on PSM model calls on the showdown slates, so
That's true.
I don't hate OJ Howard tonight for whatever reason, and I didn't watch that game closely, probably not nearly as closely as you did with your FanDuel sweat last week. But it seemed like OJ Howard narrowed the gap between he and Cameron Brate, if that was just a result of the box score getting out of hand or what it was. But I think there is a chance that OJ Howard runs about as many pass routes as Cameron Brate. And if OJ Howard is running as many pass routes as Cameron Brate, I'm certainly interested at 1,400. Hopefully people have written him off because he hasn't produced in 2 weeks without Gronk, but 1,400, this is a guy that if the Bucs are going to continue to pass, he could certainly find his way in optimal lineups at that cheap price tag.
Yeah, as a community, we're all going to lose money on Jack Stoll, but nobody's going to care because it's all about the community, right, Luke? That's the point, right? Somebody said here, Deion Yelder is active for the Bucs for what it's worth. I still doubt he will be involved whatsoever. All right. Defenses in these are always weird, and kickers, because we expect so many points to be scored and it's hard for defenses to get there. But kickers, I think, maybe are in play. I don't know. What do you think about kickers and defenses on this slate?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Eagles go, it's just really tough to see Brady making, mistakes that are going to yield fantasy points on that side of the ball. But if we get the Bucs playing with a lead and pinning their ears back, certainly don't hate mixing in Bucs DST with, if you go in like 5-1 Bucs heavy lineups, certainly don't hate mixing in the Bucs defense at all. We've talked about it. These kickers, when there isn't a whole lot at the bottom tier of the pricing salary as far as the skill position guys go, they can force their way in even in high scoring game environments if they hit a couple field goals. But I think we have enough at the low end with Ertz, as we talked about, and some of these really cheap guys. Kenny Gainwell is another one. OJ Howard. I would rather play those skill position guys than a kicker, but again, they're going to be involved. So if you're building out an MME set or a 20 max, you're probably going to have a little bit of exposure to these guys.
Look at these Ertz fans. Ertz, 10-1, 10-2, book it from Chris. Joseph, he doesn't need to be targeted 10 to 12 times with 3,200. Be real, guys. Yeah, I know, but that's why he's going to be so expensive, so owned, obviously. Ertz going to catch 9 balls from Andrew for 31 yards, maybe. All right. Here's some narrative street from Greg. Godwin, born in Philly, shout out Penn State, playing the Eagles in Philly for the first time in his career. Big game incoming. I like that.
That's something I can get behind.
Yeah, that's Chris Godwin is a really good dude. Seems like a really good dude. And his dad used to call into local radio, and he seemed like a really good dude too when I was living in Philly. Okay, we have time for maybe 2 or 3 minutes of questions. You guys can ask anything that you'd like here before we get to everybody's favorite portion of the program, of course, the flag plants. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions? More FanDuel points, Sanders or Suckup? That's an interesting question. Any thoughts here, Cody?
I think it's got to be Sanders. I don't know what the projections would say, but I would much rather play Sanders.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's talking FanDuel Cash or FanDuel GPP, but I think straight up it's Sanders.
Yeah, we have 10.1 for Sanders, 9.3 for Suckup. Obviously, the ceiling is a big difference. Sanders gets the touchdowns, 15 on the ceiling, 11.5 for Suckup. How do Hurts and Brady compare on FanDuel? Dink has told you guys that FanDuel is unbeatable showdown. That's why we don't really show it on here. But yeah, we have 0.1 points apart between Brady and Hurts tonight. I think I personally prefer Brady, but I hate saying bad things about Hurts, man. He's just the man. I prefer Brady tonight.
I think I saw someone in the Discord had posted that the optimal was jamming in like 80% Jalen Hurts at MVP. So, I mean, if you want to get off of that, Brady's a little bit more expensive, maybe a pay up to be contrarian situation there. But that game is so tough. You're going to see those guys rostered so heavily at MVP that it's you have to do something absolutely ridiculous, even more so than you do on DraftKings to get unique.
Greg Ward or OJ Howard tonight? I think it's got to be OJ for me. What do you think?
Yeah, it depends on your contest format, but OJ Howard's going to have a better median projection. I think he probably scores points more often than Greg Ward. But if you're talking some of these top heavy large field tournaments, Greg Ward's going to catch no ownership. So it depends on your contest.
Here we go. More people busting balls about Ertz. What story is the thumbnail telling? I see it as Cody in disbelief that Ertz is as good a value as he is, and then Adam's jaw drops at the prospect of an Ertz captain winning it. Ertz captain winning it would make me sick. Yes, indeed. Question: do you enjoy burning money on FanDuel? No, the FanDuel action is good, man. Just the showdown's not good. That's all. What about playing Big Mike Evans in captain at his price? Yeah, it's gonna be tough to fit. Actually, that could keep Mike Evans' captain ownership down. I don't know what you think about that, Cody. It's kind of hard to fit Mike Evans in captain.
Yeah, I think he'll end up being the third out of the Bucs' big three in terms of captain ownership. For that reason, he's a good play. But the salary is definitely not as nice as the Antonio Brown salary.
What do you think will be played more? 5-1 with the Bucs, 4-2 with the Bucs. What do you think is the most common construction tonight?
It's just based off the value that we talked about on the Eagles side. I think you're going to see plenty of 3-3, plenty of 4-2 Bucs heavy lineups. So for that reason, I like 5-1. I don't think you're going to see a lot of 5-1. So if you think the Bucs go out and smash, play that. And then, as mentioned in the article, I think 2-4 is pretty strong with 2 Bucs, 4 Eagles tonight as well, just with the pass volume that we expect.
This is always the interesting question. Which backup quarterback has the best chance coming in? Come on, guys. We're not playing backup quarterbacks. Don't be ridiculous. Here we go, Sam. Now Sam's speaking my language. Stole over Ertz.
Oh, baby.
You've been warned from Sam.
There we go.
I wouldn't go that far. Chris says 4-2 Eagles for the win. Yeah, I mean, 4-2 underdog in this spot we know is going to be really lightly owned. I mean, I think that was it. All right. A lot of people are asking about Brady's thumb. I don't really see it as a concern at all in this game. Have you seen anything to make you concerned at all with Brady's thumb?
No, it hasn't played into any of my analysis or lineup building decisions to this point.
Yeah, agreed. James says Uncle Lenny for all the money. I mean, this role Uncle Lenny has is really something. I mean, Brady throws to running backs at such a high rate, and they get in the red zone at such a high rate. I mean, it's crazy. Ryan has a season-long question. Come on, Ryan. Cody doesn't play season-long. Get out of here. All right, last question we'll do here. Thoughts on Tyler Johnson? Yeah, we mentioned it, but he ran a bunch of routes last week. I can pull out the number here, but I mean,
32% of dropbacks, 6.4% target share. He does have 2 end zone targets. I listed him as one of those dart throw guys. And again, these sub 2,000 guys that we don't expect to play a whole lot, maybe a third of the snaps, if that, they're going to have to mix into your lineups. You're going to have to feel pretty uncomfortable and lose quite often to realize your expectation, but they make a lot of sense on these type of slates.
I'm not sure I followed Don's question here, but it seems interesting. He's been seeing the least projected exposure wide receiver getting steamed in 50-plus buy-in mid-size. Any expectation who that would be? I think he means tonight. Like, I think a lot of people who are playing Showdown seriously are trying to leverage ownership really hard. And so if we have a guy projected really low at higher stakes, he comes in really high. If you follow what I'm saying, Cody, do you think that's happening?
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention too much to that, but if Don's seeing that could be someone like Evans tonight, maybe somebody like Devonta Smith. I think that the 2 obvious guys are Godwin and AB. So maybe you see if people are really trying to leverage off that, maybe you see Evans get steamed in higher stakes.
Yeah. getting to the leveling phase of DFS, which was a great phase in poker when everybody was just like cold 6 betting with like total dust. That was a great phase of poker as well. Okay. Enough is enough. Go ahead with your flag plant for tonight's action, Cody.
Oh, in honor of Dink, I wanted to go OJ Howard, but I'm going to leave the OJ Howard truthers alone. I'm not going to mush OJ Howard. So we're going back to the well. I think he's one of the most expensive guys on the slate, but I'm not going to let that deter me. Flag planting Devonta Smith as the optimal captain tonight.
Yes, your Heisman Trophy winner, Devonta Smith. All right, I'm going to go a little bit farther off the board. Everybody made fun of me because my flag plants, although I flag plant Donald Parham and he just gives you guys touchdowns and ends up in the optimal, no big deal. But I'm going to go off the board tonight to a guy who I think can break the slate in one play, and his playing time is rising, and the guy in front of him sucks. Yes, Jalen Reagor sucks. It is Quez Watkins at 4,600 through big plays will be in the optimal tonight. That is a flag plant.
That's a flag plant. There you go. There's your Jalen Hurts at captain double with Devonta Smith and Quez Watkins.
Dink's not here, but I'll go ahead and do a flag plant for him. It's going to be Jack Stoll will be Dink's flag plant tonight. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. Enjoy the game tonight. Should be actually a really, really good one. For Cody, for producer Adam, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.